All right, it is time to bring it on. That's right, it's time to bring it on down to the Rod Charlottetown Hotel. And this is not the post-game report. This is a special show. It is the trade period wrap-up report, and I have an expert Charlottetown Islanders panel with me. First off, over here, Mr. Nolan Reed. How you doing, Nolan?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Pretty good, pretty good. And of course, JD Jonathan Dumphy. How are you doing there, sir?
I'm doing good. How about yourself, sir?
I'm dizzy from all the trades, man. But you know, we're gonna bump this one out big time because 12 trades over the last couple weeks, and I think we'll just start right from the beginning. On the 22nd of last year, we saw the first trade, and it was Matthew for Matthew. Matthew Bursey was traded for Matthew Cousin. And Nolan, what's your take on this trade right off the bat?
When I first heard of the trade, I was really kind of disappointed to see Bursey go. You know, Bursey was probably one of the hardest working players on the Islanders this year. He gave his all every shift. I was a little disappointed to see him go, but I was happy to see him go to a team like Blainville, who's first place right now, contenders this year. So it's always good to see Islanders players go to contending teams. And but we've got to see Cousin 2 home games so far. He scored a goal. He has a goal in 3 games. So Cousin, he's a 17-year-old, but he just turned 18 on New Year's Day. But he's definitely a young player from the future of this team, and you know, he's a good third line, fourth line guy for this team.
And your thoughts, JD?
I think it had to be done. I mean, Bursey was a heart and soul player. I mean, I've said to him, like, you know, when he was amped up at the first of the game, you knew it was going to be a good game. You knew that, you know, he was going to be banging, he was going to be, you know, just providing that leadership, providing that extra spark. I mean, he wore number 63, Brad Marchand. Like, perfect example. He's the guy that, you know, you need. He's the guy that goes in the trenches. He's the kind of player you need to win. But at the same time, I mean, we weren't going anywhere with Bursey and a lot of these guys. So I just think it had to be done. And it was nice that we got, you know, Cousin, who's an okay player. We can develop him. He could, you know, he fits into the picture. He fits into the picture that they wanted as a team, so
exactly.
It just needed to be done.
Yeah.
What I'd like to add with Bursey, you know, Bursey is a guy that I interviewed quite a few times after games, and Bursey just he never shied away from answers. He always gave long answers. He told you how it was, and even you know. Up in St. John, when I went up in St. John, he was out when he hurt his hand in the fight the night before, and he always took the time to say hi to me. He knew who I was, and Bursey was just a great all around nice guy. And it sucks to see a guy like him go, but it's always good to see him go to a team that's contending this year.
Yeah, and I totally agree with your assessment of Matt Bursey because he's just a very nice guy to have on a team. You could tell that he's friendly with the fans. You could tell that the players loved him. And the coach loved him too. Everybody seemed to like this guy, and yes, he would talk to you, but it's the future that they're looking at, and Grant Sonier has definitely put a stamp on this team. So let's just go on to trade number 2 then, and that happened on the same exact day, and we saw Jan Pavel LaPlante and Julien Leduc go to Victoriaville, and there were, and now according to what I see, I got a first rounder in 2016, 2015, and a fourth rounder in 2014. JD, what's your assessment on this trade right here?
Deal. I mean, you got 2 first rounders. You gave up a solid defenseman. He had been playing really well for us. But at the same time, I don't think you gave very much up to get Leduc in the beginning. So, you know, it's all trading stocks, basically. You know, you're trying to you trade and then you try to, you know, sell for higher than what you used to acquire. So, I mean, we got 2 first rounders out of it. We ended up using one of those first rounders, maybe the second one as well. I can't remember. But I mean, again, it's, you know, not to sound redundant, but it's probably something that needed to be done. LaPlante was basically being used as a third-line player, first-line talent. I mean, the last game of the playoffs last year proved that, but he he wasn't living up to the billing that maybe he could have. So it was nice that we got a pretty decent return. I mean, I've got no problems with that deal whatsoever. And I mean, Leduc, he was a good defenseman, but at the same time, you've got to give up a bit to actually be able to, to.
You give up the best to get the best.
Yeah, basically, you got to give up the best to get the best. So
Yeah, exactly.
he was in our top 4 defensemen, but he wasn't in our top 2. So
Yeah.
I'm okay with that.
And any other thoughts, Nolan?
I kind of agree with everything JD said there. Thing with LaPlante, I noticed. He only had, I think, it was only 13 or 18 points. He really wasn't performing the way he should have been.
Yeah.
Guys like Goulet and Sprong and Nevins, I thought were just outplaying LaPlante. And I'd hate to sound negative, but I think LaPlante wanted out, and he just didn't care. He stopped playing for us, and you could see that in his game, November-ish. Taking some dumb penalties, but I like the return for him. The first round that we got in 2016, as we see today, which we'll probably talk about later, that pick went back to Victoriaville for 16-year-old defenseman Luc Duchesne. And rumor is at the draft at the summer, which is common in the queue, looks like it's possibly that the first round of 2015 is going to go back to Victoriaville, and we're going to get 20-year-old Ross Johnson.
Jeez, it's dizzying, isn't it?
Ross Johnson, who is a Charlottetown native.
Oh, well, that's also another nice thing. Good player, but also a native of Charlottetown. Actually, it's kind of funny with LaPlante. When you were talking about how LaPlante, both of you have said that LaPlante really wasn't living up to that talent, the first line talent that he could have been. And you got that vibe that I think a lot more people were expecting more from him. Not just the fans, but the coaches, the management, you name it, were really expecting a lot from this guy. The potential was there.
Sprong shouldn't have been the leading scorer. Sprong should not be the lead. LaPlante, this was LaPlante's team coming into the season. This was LaPlante's team. 18-year-old getting ready for a couple seasons down the road to be contenders. This was LaPlante's team to take the ball and roll with it. But he just didn't do that.
It's just the consistency. Because there were times where that guy was just two-way forward, just back checking like crazy. He would just,
but just the breakaways, just couldn't finish on breakaways. But
he's no Josh Curry.
And the thing is too, a third, as you were saying off camera there, LaPlante was a third-round pick by the Phoenix Coyotes, and he's playing third-line center time.
Third line.
That's not a good sign at all.
But he credit him. He's an amazing player. He's going to do really well.
I think a change of scenery will help him.
I think he's gonna thrive. He's a player that could lead the league in scoring as a 19-year-old next year. He's just so much talent, and it just needs to be, it just needs to be. I don't know if it's utilized properly or what have you, but he was so fast on the ice, and I had so much respect for that guy, and he was so good. But. He could do it all. He fought a bunch. He picked his spots. He hit. I remember watching him last year. He just drilled people, drilled them into the boards, and he'd be back checking. He'd be, breakaways, just all around player. But it just didn't work out this season.
Well, hopefully, if he's lost his game, he'll find it again. Just because he is such a good player and a good guy as well. All right, let's get to the third trade. Only third player. There's a lot of players in this one. Third trade. It happened on the 27th. It was between Charlottetown Islanders and the good old Gatineau Olympique. Yes, thank you. See, I'm learning my French. And of course, that was Deverick Otterijs going, along with a 10th round pick in 2015. And in return, Vincent Roy and an 8th round in 2014. Nolan, what do you think about this trade?
I like this deal. Really hate to sound negative again, but Otterijs, he wasn't really doing much for us. He was just a 19-year-old there to give leadership, but he only had, I think he had 4 goals and. Let me just double check here. It was 4. I know he had 4. Yeah, he had 4 goals and 4 assists in 33 games. And I think his goals came earlier in the season. I didn't see Otter Eyes back as a 20-year-old next year, so we might as well get rid of him. And what we got back for him in Waugh, he's a steady 17-year-old defenseman. He's never played a Q game until just after the Christmas break. He played his first Q game, and he's looked pretty solid out there, I think.
Okay, what do you think, JD?
I haven't seen a whole lot of Waugh, to be honest, but I mean, Otter Eyes was a player that I really liked. He had a lot of character. On ice talents, not so much necessarily. As far as Q goes, he didn't produce offensively, but there was the intangibles that you can't teach that were there. There was a lot of leadership. He was wearing an A at the first of the season.
Yes, that's right.
He could have been a potential captain. He may end up that in Gatineau, who really knows? But we got something for him, so that's good. He really wasn't doing a whole lot for us this year. So if we can get a piece like Waugh, if that's what Sonier is being offered, then you got to run with that. If that's
exactly. And it's again that lean towards youth that GM Sonier is going for, and maybe it was something that Gatineau was missing. That was the one thing with good old Bazooka Moose. There is that he was good in the faceoffs. He was really good in the faceoffs. Not as good as he could have been, I think. He was starting lagging here and there, but
good penalty killer too,
and a good penalty killer as well. Yeah, good point. A very good penalty killer as well.
That's brings us to another point too. I noticed Bursey, LaPlante, and Otter Eyes. All three of those players were three of our main penalty killers.
Yeah.
Plus McLaughlin, but he's still on the team.
Thank God.
But I found Otter Eyes had a lot of PK time, and now it looks like Dwyer's going to have to find three more guys who can fill in that penalty killer role. But
I think Craig McLaughlin's emergence, because in the last 15 games he's just he's come on hard. They put him out there just to win faceoffs,
even in overtime.
Just to win faceoffs, and he gives it his all. So I think maybe that may have played a role in it, because he wasn't. He's only come about in the last maybe 15 games.
Totally.
Probably 20 games. So I think that just kind of made a guy like Bursey, a guy like Otter Eyes is a better example, because at least Bursey had some offensive upside. But I think that just made Otter Eyes expendable.
Well, I agree with you too. I'm calling him PK Mac whenever I see him now, because he's a penalty killing soldier, big time, and how could you compete with McLaughlin? Because he's good on the face-off, but he will block shots. He will get that puck out of the zone any way he possibly can, and that is a great thing. All right, let's move on to the next trade, and that was on the 29th of December. And this one was, I think, a touchy trade for the fans, because it was one of the most popular players. We were talking about Bursey before, but another popular player left, and that was the number one goaltender, Antoine Bibeau. He was traded to Val-d'Or along with an 8th-round pick in 2015, and the return was all picks. First-rounder in 2014, a 3rd-rounder in 2014, and a 4th-rounder in 2014. And I think we're back to you, JD.
Well, you know what? This was a trade that, again, you've got to talk about the emergence of another guy. Brassard came in, and every game that he was in, he gave us a chance to win. And I think it's really great that, and you try not to compare Serge Savard with Grant Sonier, because they're two totally different people. Grant's very professional. Grant has been there before, right? Serge Savard, I think this is his only, he was an owner with the team, and his father was a big GM in the NHL, so you would have expected a lot from him. But something like the Bibeau trade, it's something that Savard wouldn't have done. Savard would have kept him.
It shows the risk that Sonier has too.
Yeah, Sonier, it's very smart, because we gave Brassard the chance to take over the number one. We've got a couple good goalies in the system. Obviously, we used a pick to get another player after, another goalie after, that's going to challenge Brassard.
Absolutely.
We gained assets in the Bibeau deal, and he's a 20-year-old next year. It's kind of like it's kind of like Baran next year. So he'd be taking up Bebo would be taking up 2 roster spots.
Yeah.
Which
And
you don't necessarily want to do.
Yeah, and who knows if he'll be in the queue next year, right?
Yeah.
That's it too. Yeah, it's looking at that big picture with GM Sonier seems to be doing. He seems to be looking ahead, looking at what we can do now, but really it's that 2-3 years down the road that the GM is really looking at. And this is what I hope the fans, just even watching this right now, are going to realize that there's more to this. It's not just like, oh no, they traded my favorite player. We're not trying to
Junior hockey.
Exactly. And a lot of the fans, they don't look at that. They look at the NHL and they put it down here with the Q and the rest of the CHL and say, no, this is a different story. This is a different way it's played, and definitely in the boardroom for sure.
You know, it's like you could take the NHL for example, and like LA trading Jonathan Quick. Oh no, LA is gonna suck now. They traded my favorite goalie, but with Q, the NHL, you can rebuild for 5 years, and the Q you have 2 years to rebuild because you come in the league at 16 and you're out when you're 20, and not a lot of players stay until they're 20.
Exactly.
Not a lot of high-quality players. And Bebo would be a high-quality player.
For sure.
Absolutely. Totally.
Plus, it all depends on, if the Leafs want him because he's drafted by the Leafs. If the Leafs want him in the AHL, or if they want him in the East Coast League, or if they want him in junior. So it all depends on that too.
And they go through goalies like no tomorrow. So you never know. He might be there next week. But anyway, sorry, Leafs fans. Anyway, let's get to the next trade, and it's another goaltending situation the same day. Acadie Bathurst traded Mason McDonald to Charlottetown for a first-rounder in 2014, a fourth-rounder in 2014, and yet again another fourth-rounder in 2014. And we're back to you, Nolan. Your thoughts on Mason McDonald? We've seen him play already, and I had a great interview with Brian Willett about him, and I actually put it on the last post-game report. Check it out on YouTube. Anyway, Nolan, what do you think of this trade?
I like this trade. Going back to Brian Willett, Brian Willett had just nothing but good things to say about McDonald. This kid has a lot of potential, and he's also going to be playing in the top prospects game. I think is it this week or this weekend? It's
the under 17.
No, it's the NHL top prospects.
Oh,
game.
Really? Oh, Team
yeah. So it's good to get him noticed there, and we got to see him play on Sunday, and I thought he was. I think we with Bebo gone, I think we still have 2 number 1 goalies.
Oh, absolutely.
And just to mention the 4th round pick, one of the 4th round picks was from Baie-Comeau, which we got from Victoriaville. But McDonald, he made a couple of big saves on Sunday, especially that one with the glove.
Oh yes. I know which one you're talking about, man.
Funny situation too. The Bebo trade and this McDonald trade, they were both done on December 28th. That was right after our first game back from the Christmas break. I actually interviewed McDonald on Sunday, and he said that he actually found out that he was traded like 5 minutes, 10 minutes after the game, because he was playing for Acadie Bathurst then, obviously. He found out right in the Eastlink Center. And he said he knew about the trade, and he said he went back home with Bathurst. He said it was a bit of a weird scenario. And then because then the Islanders went up there the next day, which you know of.
Yeah, I was there. I was right behind them.
And then the Bebo trade too was also done like 10 minutes after he posted that shutout against Bathurst.
Yeah. Your thoughts, JD?
I love the deal, to be honest. I was ecstatic when I found out. I was actually in the office at the time that it went down. And it was just like, McDonald's a guy that
he was a second-round pick too in 2012.
He could have been and it was the first pick in the second round or second pick in the second round, something like that.
Really?
It was a high second round.
He was the first goalie to get picked. I think.
Yeah, he was the first goalie to get picked. He's a top goalie in his age category in the entire country, and I think it's perfect. He's a big goalie. He plays big. He's got lots of obviously he's got lots of size. He could put on he could put on some pounds because he's a very lean goalie. But he doesn't need to. I mean, he's got a great style. He's going to challenge Brassard. He's going to push him. Brassard was pushing Bebo, and Bebo was pushing Brassard.
Yep.
It keeps that. Brassard's going to have to try to keep the number one spot. And at this point, who knows if Brassard's the number 1? It could be Mason McDonald.
And that's the thing, this kind of rivalry between goaltenders. I mean, it actually worked between Bibeau and Brassard. They were just pushing one another back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, and we had the best tandem in the league. We might still have the best tandem in the league right now.
I think we had the best tandem in the CHL.
Oh wow, okay, yeah, you heard that from Nolan.
Quite honest. Yeah.
I'm not going to argue with you after seeing what Mason McDonald could do and what Brassard's been doing this season.
Even what Brian Willett said, he said that he wouldn't be surprised, and I've seen from other tweets too from other people that they wouldn't be surprised if McDonald's our starter by the end of the season.
Yeah, and that would not shock me, and that really doesn't say anything bad about Brassard either. I mean, Brassard has played incredibly well, and I think this is another thing I was saying that fans should be looking at down the line, but you're going to see it. You already saw it on Sunday, like you mentioned. You're going to see it for the rest of the season. I don't know how many more wins we're going to get. Are we going to make the playoffs? I hope so. But with all these trades, it's for the future, and I think the future is going to come quicker than the fans actually think with these trades. And let's just keep moving on forward. And Halifax, we're actually going into 2014 on the 2nd. Halifax traded Liam
Alcade.
Alcade, thank you. Liam Alcade.
Alcalde, as they pronounced it. They pronounced it on the webcast.
When he was out there, I do the nicknames and I was yelling out Alcade
because
I didn't know what else to do, right? So I was like, Mr. Alcade, if you have a nickname that's not alcohol related, please let me know. So you don't think I'm calling you a full-blown alcoholic during the games. But anyway, that was a trade, and it was an 8th rounder, 2014, and I believe that belonged to Bathurst as well. Anyway, JD, what do you think of the Liam Alcade?
You know what? I think it's a very underrated trade. I mean, it's an 8th rounder. An 8th rounder is not a whole lot.
Yeah.
At the same time, though, you're bringing in a guy with Memorial Cup experience. You can't teach that.
Yes.
In hockey
yes,
school.
exactly.
You can't teach that at the Andrews camp. Like you can't, right? I mean, I don't know if he was in the first. I don't know if he was with Halifax 2 years in a row or not. But I mean, he's got the experience there. He knows how to win. He's going to teach our players how to win. He's just he's going to bring a steady 4th line, 3rd line presence. He's not going to score much, but he's going to bring the same that somebody like Deverick Otterise brought as far as leadership goes. And I mean, for the sake of an 8th rounder, why not do that? If you can get Liam Alcalde for an 8th rounder, then you do that. That's just that's what you do. So I love it.
Now, is it Alcalde or Alcade?
I've heard Alcade.
Well, there's an L in it, so unless the L is silent.
Yeah.
I guess we'll have to ask.
You people know who we're talking about.
ALCALDE.
All right. So, what do you think, Nolan, on this one?
It's just a minor deal, really. He's just an energy guy, I'd say. 4th line, 3rd line guy. 1 assist in 23 games with Halifax, so he's not going to bring the offense. But 44 penalty minutes, 68 in the 2 seasons he's been with Halifax. So you're not going to expect too much from this guy. He doesn't shy away from dropping the mitts. So I think just a 3rd line, 4th line guy. I noticed he was playing the power play too.
Yeah, I
on Sunday.
Yeah, I
they
saw
just
that
popped him
on
in
Sunday.
front of the net. So he's got a 6-foot frame, 218 pounds. So might as well put that in front of the goalie.
Maybe another piece in the puzzle.
I think that's the whole. I mean, it's the whole point. There's obviously a method to Grant Sonier's madness. He's obviously got a plan.
Yeah.
He wouldn't be making. I mean, if you look, how many trades did we make this? What was it? 12 trades.
12 total trades.
Guess how many they made last year?
2?
3. They made 3 trades last year.
Wow. Yeah.
Wow.
1 on deadline
Nothing.
day.
Yep, 1 on deadline day.
Unbelievable.
And I mean, that was a key trade too, though. Actually, sorry, no, not 1 on deadline day. Well, they got Trey Vance on deadline day last year. So, I mean, Grant Sonier is not afraid to make trades. He's said in the past that he's not afraid to make it. It's kind of unfortunate that they have these CEGEP rules where there's only certain times where we can actually do trades. So when we had that big slip, there was nothing. There was very little that we could do, and you had to kind of fine lines, and there was a lot of pressure on Gordy to to call up the right player, to tell Grant what or I don't know how their their chemistry works, I guess how it works necessarily, but
Quite the juggling.
Quite the
act,
juggling.
It's crazy.
Act, really.
It's
It
crazy.
really
Because
is.
only 20-year-olds are allowed to be traded during the season.
Yeah.
But then after
Yeah.
that, if you get like a 17 or 18-year-old player, they're only allowed to play 10 games until the trading period opens up. So they're used as an affiliate player.
Wow, I'm telling you, like when you're in the queue, I mean, it's tough. I can't imagine being a GM or a coach in this league. I mean, it's going to the NHL. That's probably why they're going to want to go to the NHL. It's a little easier, unless you're playing in Montreal and Toronto. Then, well, we all know how that goes. But as fans watching, so let's go to the next trade, same day, and we saw Sherbrooke trade Samuel Jutras. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. To Sherbrooke, and in return they got Mate Baran. Okay, Nolan, what do you think of the trade?
It's a good deal. Don't know, not sure on Jutras or Jutres, however you say his name. I don't know if he's going to be reporting. I know in the press release, Sonier said that they'll evaluate him.
Yeah.
But I can't see that being until probably training camp. Baran took up 2 spots. He was a European and he was a 20-year-old.
Yeah.
Baran played a lot of power play time, but he wasn't putting up the numbers that he should have been for being a 20-year-old, being a Euro. And to be quite honest with you, I don't think we were getting much from Baran this year anyways, as we would have liked to get from him. But once again, we got younger with this trade. We got rid of a veteran 20-year-old, brought in a 17-year-old. I like the deal. I wasn't the biggest fan of Baran at times, but other than that,
Not going any further than that.
Baran did provide offense when needed, but
exactly.
but other than that, he wasn't putting up the numbers that he should have, and I think he'll fit in well with a team like Sherbrooke, who's still rebuilding, and because they're allowed 4 20-year-olds, so there's probably room for him. So.
What do you think, Jay?
That's a good deal. I mean, it's hard to. I mean, you get Jutras. Obviously, Baran was taking up 2 spots. That's a known fact. And I mean, I like Baran. It's hard to say that he wasn't producing how he should have, because who are we to decide how a player is supposed to produce, right? I mean, we put a lot of pressures on these players, and we expect a lot. Maybe we're expecting too much because we're not there for their development. It's he brought offense when we needed him to. I mean, he sniped solid. I think one of the last games he played,
He did have an awesome shot.
An awesome wrist shot, just top corner that I was just.
Yeah,
I couldn't believe it.
He used to do that drag, like he would do.
I like
he would
that.
move.
Yeah, he would.
Yeah.
He would do the toe drag and snipe it. Yeah, there was one game last year against Rimouski. Took the glove off and went like that.
Oh man.
Yeah, he's a guy I liked. I liked him a lot, but I just, I didn't understand keeping him as a 20 versus, Provencher. Obviously, Olini is the guy we probably could have used this year, but his circumstance was a whole lot different.
Right.
But
Right.
I mean, you got something for him.
Yeah, it's not like we just gave him away for nothing.
No, and it's nice that there was a lot of talk that it was going to be really difficult for somebody to actually take him on, somebody that, because they'd have to give up a 20 spot and a European spot. That was going to be
I was
huge.
thinking that.
So what? It gave us, he obviously didn't fit into the picture in the future. So if you can get a 17-year-old that we can try, to teach and to try to teach the game and develop the proper way, then again, you go for it. So, and Grant did that.
And that's the thing with Baran, is that, he was kind of hot and cold. There were times that he was playing with that great shot you were talking about, and you were thinking, okay, he's getting back maybe with that solid game. Maybe we could have him on the first line, easily first line, maybe even, you know what I mean? Like one of the top lines. Power play for sure. But there just seemed to be too much cold with the hot.
Inconsistent.
Very much so,
It's
the
same with
inconsistency.
I mean, same deal.
Exactly. It was exactly the same thing, and that's why Grant had to pull the trigger, and especially because of the 2 spots he was actually taking up that you guys